being a lot more emotional at different things. I've found myself being very run down by things, and as the time has gone on, I've found myself becoming a lot more anxious about being out in public and going for the weekly shop, and I had even started to make my weekly shop last for 2 weeks, just so that I wouldn't have to go out again.
To be honest, my experience during the first lockdown was pretty positive. I found it a great way to kind of work on myself and my mental health and really find out who I am, and I think it was a great way to kind of de-stress from like everyday busy life, you know, to just like stop for a minute and not be running around frantically.
I worked right up to the day it stopped, and sadly, you know, every morning since being aware of the COVID pandemic, I've woke up with this kind of impending doom feeling of depression, that I thankfully I'm able to flip it over on a daily basis. But every morning I wake up, I feel that it's surreal, and I have this heavy feeling in my heart that's very dominant, and it makes me feel really, really low, really heavy, and I never had that before this happened.
It's been very difficult. I went through a phase where my mental health suffered. I was staying at home all the time, eating lots, not all good foods, but not seeing people. And I think for me anyway, I think we humans live for social interaction. Even on Saturdays, you know, I'd go for a walk to the local shop and it'd be quiet. And even if you aren't going out, you know, to a restaurant or going out dancing or whatever, you know, Edinburgh just seems so dead. You know, there's no life. And it kind of gets to you, really.
I would say that a flat mood, you know, when you don't have any excitement, anything to look forward to. And then as the weeks went by, I mean, I would catch up with my friends on Zoom, but we all began to realise that that's just not enough. It's not the same. You don't pick up on the mood and the excitement the same way, even if you're sat there with a drink and you're ostensibly talking about the same sorts of things. It's so different from being co-located. And so I really started to miss them, seeing them in 3 dimensions and being, you know, able to interact with body language and facial cues and all those other things that actually not having makes a Zoom call extremely tiring, in my opinion.
Yes, I think for me, if you live alone, then your friends and your family are your main source of social contact. So when that goes, it all goes. Yeah, there's the social media, there's WhatsApp, there's Zoom and stuff, but you know, it's just not the same. So yeah, I would say for me anyway, the social isolation was the hardest thing to get used to, because frankly, Zoom is great, but it's just not the same as meeting someone in person. It's just not. You can't hug someone over Zoom. You can't shake hands with someone over Zoom. So that's a problem.
So the hardest part of the lockdown for me has been physical contact. Being around all of my family and friends, just having a so-called normal day that I remember in the past. That just seems so far removed from today. I feel I'm living in a new age, which is very distant, and I feel quite separated. That connection feels to be very different. So I'm finding it quite difficult to socialise today as well, with this distancing and space. I don't know how to socialise very well now.
Another struggle, which again links to my anxiety and the fact that I usually want to feel in control, is this fact that it's not possible to make any plans, in the near future, but also longer term. So I kind of like live in this isolation and bubble where I just need to take it day by day, and I don't think my brain is set up for doing that.
And then as the lockdown proceeded, obviously I think what was really hard was that I didn't know when it would end, just this doom and gloom on the TV all the time, watching death figures and the media's obsession with death figures. It's just depressing, so that was kind of hard to deal with.
Because I think if you don't keep your mind busy, then it runs away. Then you start thinking, will I ever travel again? Will I ever, be able to pursue that job that I wanted again? Will I be able to, even simple things like, will I be able to go for a pint down the pub? I think it's all about keeping your mind busy.
Lockdown, to be honest, I'm not one of these people that have enjoyed lockdown and had wonderful family trips out and lovely time together. I've hated lockdown. I like my work, I like going out, I like seeing people. I get my life and energy from my work, and not being able to do that has caused real problems. I can't think of many good points of lockdown. I just want us to get out.
Then came the vaccinations and hope and feeling that we might get out of this. And that was followed by the biggest dip on the roller coaster that you could possibly imagine. I got a call from my son in Canada. His wife was in ICU. She was one of the, 250,000 who don't take the AZ vaccine. Blood clots and hemorrhages together. Normally one is the opposite of the other. The doctors had no experience of this combination of factors, apparently. If they treated the blood clots, the hemorrhaging of the internal organs got worse. If they treated the hemorrhaging, then the blood clots in the brain got worse and worse. My daughter-in-law was the third case in Canada, apparently. The first two had died. Then she had strokes from the blood clots. Doctors were saying, prepare for the worst to my son on 2 separate occasions. And I was stuck here. You couldn't leave. You couldn't get to Canada. They wouldn't let you in. We couldn't support each other or hug or sympathise properly. It's right to get the vaccine. Side effects are so rare. It's 1 in 250,000. They aren't that rare when it's you or one of yours. Then it's 1 in 1. It's no longer 1 in 250,000. My daughter-in-law is finally home now. She had her blood plasma replaced 6 times. She was given blood treatments that cost the earth. She's lost all her adrenal glands. She has no immune system left. Hopefully, in time, she'll recover. Hopefully, her eyesight will come back.
I've discovered that many months ago, at the beginning of the lockdown, for a few seconds I saw something which I thought it was great. It's this Take a Smile. And I've decided to start making, I've done already 121 with 10 little smiles. That means that I've given away 1,200 smiles. I started in my neighborhood and then I've just been everywhere, putting them in bus stops.